Sports Program. I'm your host, Tim Gaffney, joined in studio by my good friend, Mr. Rick Wilson, as always. And to my right, just one of our favorites ever on the entire planet. We've been covering her since she was 7, and she still scores points and is now a terrific coach for the Torrington volleyball team. Christine Gamari, good evening, sweetheart. How are you? It is
Very
always
good.
so good to see you.
It's always nice to see you guys, too.
Mr. Wilson, brought your present.
I'm not sure after last night what we're supposed to do with that.
Mr. Giant, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of was a giant something or other, right? I mean, Tony
Gi-
Romo does very
giant
well during
collapse?
the regular season. You went to sleep. You didn't even bother, did you? You were done.
No, but I tell you, 3 years have weaned me, and I told you this when we came in tonight. They were up 3 going into the fourth quarter, and I said, based on the last year, I know I'm going to wake up and they're going to have lost the game. And yep, I went down and grabbed my phone before I turned the TV on, 27-26, and
I think
so
Witten,
be it. But
Witten just goes to the goal line, and you know it's over then because you're not going to get the ball from him, and he's going to.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't. And Dallas loses Des Bryant for anywhere from I think 4 to 6, but they're expecting 8 weeks. So I didn't think Dallas clearly didn't knock the. Have anybody believing that they're going to the Super Bowl last night either. But you know what? They come out with a win, and the Giants don't. But
down to Big D and don't come home with a W. But hey, we want to thank the fine folks from Simply Seafood because Mr. Wilson, outstanding buffet tonight.
yeah, really, the shrimp were pretty good too, and you're not doing me any favors whatsoever.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson will see this, and that's why he wasn't hungry for dinner tonight because he
don't
knows that we always have a spread.
Don't be throwing oil on the flames on the fire because I told you. I left the house tonight, and she had 20 to 25 soccer players who were having a pasta dinner.
Wow.
And I had kind of neglected to tell her we were doing this tonight.
All right.
Kind
Good
of
call.
slipped
Good
a
call. It's up to your
rapidly
mind. You're
deteriorating.
Very busy man.
Did not go over too well.
No.
So
There's going to be a lot of pasta on the walls at the Wilson house.
It's going to
tonight,
cost
so
me money somewhere down the line. I know that.
That can't be good. And we were talking, beforehand. We're sports guys and gals, and we're usually steak people and the rest of it. But both of you are fish aficionados. You'll go for the fish, a little clam strip, a little shrimp there, and Simply Seafood is going to be staying open all winter. So take a look out for them. They're going to be doing takeout starting the end of October, and it's just tremendous food. I mean, I got here right about when you did, a couple minutes later than normal because they had to cook it fresh. You know what I mean? Because you can't do fish 3 hours later. You got to kind of cook it when it is. So we appreciate the help that they give us tonight, and we welcome them to the Litchfield County sports team. And somebody who's been part of a team and has been written about a lot by us. And I'm going to ask you that first question: what is it like to be written about by people in general?
Well, flattering. I don't think not that many people get that opportunity, but I think the position that I was in high school, because most people certainly don't get written about in high school, it made me a much better communicator. It gave me an opportunity to talk to adults and talk about what I loved doing, which was playing my sports of volleyball, basketball, and running track. I don't think I've ever been misquoted, so that's good. So
you've kept it kind of, but you were never a generic. No, you had an opinion, but not a drastic one. You would answer a question, but not with cliche.
Right.
We all played hard.
Right. No, I tried to be always as honest as possible, and if that meant giving credit to the other team that they played better than that, then that's the credit that I gave to them. I tried to be honest and open, and it's always nice. And I was telling Mr. Wilson this. My mom made me some scrapbooks, and she just gave them to me because she's cleaning out my bedroom.
It's time.
Yeah, it's about time. I've been out a little bit. So I was reading some of them, and it's a flashback. And I don't always remember all of the details, but it's nice to put myself back there and be like, wow, okay, I did that. Or, I said this. Or, so it's nice. I get a little nostalgic. So
That's good. So for the freshmen and the sophomores coming up, and you have them on your team now with the volleyball team, they have to talk to us. What advice do you give them? How do you help them?
I think I never tell them what to say. It's more how to say it. Be respectful, be honest. And like I said, don't always give credit to the other team. We don't say, oh, we played terrible. Well, okay, we might have played terrible,
Right.
but the other team didn't, and so they deserve the credit for that. I never liked, when even coaches are quoted in the paper as saying, well, we missed serves or we did this, as if, they gave the game away.
Right.
The other team has to do something to earn the game, so we always give them credit for what they do.
That's not an easy thing when 15-year-olds see us coming at them.
Right.
You're not trained to do that when you're 15. In many cases, it may be a person's first big game or big play. And I think from you and I think the good reporter on that level will kind of guide them a little. I know you've done this, and I know I've done this, and I'll step back and I'll say, is that really what you want to say? Or that's, I said, because I have to tell you, it's going to look like this in the paper tomorrow. So high school athletes that we're writing about, and you
Right.
have to be careful, and not talking about putting words in their mouth because you want to get an honest reaction, but sometimes whether it's the heat of the moment or they're just not used to talking to the press, you want to be very careful. So she never had a problem with it. And you know what?
You guys weren't around for my college career.
You learn the other side a
Yeah.
little bit. But that is the question. How do you, when you've lost and you are the star of your high school team, people are still coming to you to talk to you. How tough is that?
It is tough, but I was able to sort of compartmentalize a little bit and objectively maybe analyze why the losses happened. You never can blame people or should blame people. It's always a team, and that's the key. You win together and you lose together. So it's just about getting back from that and playing the next game. So
One of the things that always astounded me, Mr. Wilson, because you and I call each other Mr. Wilson and Mr. Gaffney, was this is one of the only young ladies that from an early time that did it would call me Mr. Gaffney. And that's just how you were brought up, wasn't it? That, you could get away with calling us Rick and Tim, but you don't.
no.
Because it's the respect. And I think you will always get that respect back, from people. I've told many and many of folks, she calls you Mr. Gaffney. I'm looking over my shoulder. It's like, who's that? You know what I mean? So we really appreciate, how you do with that. But let's talk about this year's team, volleyball team. What's cooking? Started off 1-0, 3-0 sweep last week against Crosby, was it?
Yes.
Was that Friday night?
Yes. We're looking good this year. We lost some key players from last year's team, but we also returned a number of contributors. So where last year we had quite a bit of inexperience, we are now a little more experienced out there. And we now have a team, or what the team I put out there on Friday, 1 senior, 3 juniors, and 3 sophomores. So we have a nice balance of experience and inexperience. So whatever we do this year, hopefully we do even better next year. We're building the vision for that. So.
Sure. How have you found coaching after being a player for so long, going to school? You went to Holy Cross, right? Graduated. First, you were actually teaching down in Naugatuck,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now that would have been tough too. We always talked about that. You're down with the dreaded Greyhounds. You know what I mean?
It was awesome.
How did your
though.
feet
have
feel?
to change
Did
colors.
I was able to wear Torrington stuff. It actually, believe it or not, was one of the first things that I would share with my students at Naugatuck. And it almost was this weird way of bonding. One, that I was an athlete. Being an athlete is huge, in a school that values athletics like Naugatuck does and Torrington does. So they look to you and, wow, okay, you play basketball? Like, the best night ever is the student-faculty basketball game, because after that, like, I've earned fans, and, like, students will come up to me.
still got the jumper. It's all good.
All you got to do is drain a couple,
Yeah.
man. You're in.
You're like their hero.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
So, but it was always like this nice little, hey, Naugatuck, we'd pretend to fight it out and stuff like that. But it was nice camaraderie, and I miss them, and I still talk to my teacher friends down there. And actually, the senior class this year will be the last class that I taught at Naugatuck.
Okay.
So, and I'll see a couple of my previous students on Thursday when we play them.
Oh, now that's going to be an
Yeah.
interesting one anyway. I mean, you have Thursday, Friday this week? Is that when
Thursday,
you're
Friday,
going?
yep.
Okay.
Thursday's Naugatuck, so the night before our Naugatuck game, that practice, I don all my Naugatuck gear.
No kidding.
Yeah, all the T-shirts and sweatshirts that I've accumulated through my 5 years of teaching there. I wear it to practice. It's the tradition. And then Friday night is we play Watertown High School, which is nice because Allison Devinoso is the head coach there, and she was a year behind me at Torrington. So one of my friends, Amy Weingart, Amy Reishi now, is sort of organizing an impromptu alumni night where the people who played with us are going to come to the match and then hang out after. So, you know, we were friends because we played volleyball together and went through the program together, and I think it's important that the girls see that too, you know, the history.
How about having your name up on the banner as, you know, now the second leading scorer in basketball in Torrington school history? You're a history person. You know, you understand what it's like to be appreciated. How does that feel?
It's awesome. I love it. It's because my maiden name now, a lot of people don't make that connection. It was interesting because a couple of my teacher friends, they had the teacher welcome back the convocation there, and all they came back from that was, hey, I saw your name on this banner and that banner, you know, and so there's some pride there. I loved every minute of my athletic and school career at Torrington High School, and I'm hoping to put some years up there for other championships that I contributed to in a different way at some point.
And it's a good thing because I don't think you know, the student athletes always realize who's coaching them and what they accomplished in there, and so it's always good that they be reminded, especially now Christine can still do it, but especially if they've coached a while and they can't quite do it the way they used to, and they're saying, and you know, you need to tell them. So that's a good thing that, you know.
I think that's huge. I think, you know, especially when I came my first year, the fact that I could do what I was telling them to do, I think that earned me a little credibility. You know, 2 kids later, you know, I don't know if I can do everything.
I don't know. Well, shooters never lose their touch.
No. So, well, I saw you during pregame at Crosby, and you were working up a sweat. You had the girls going. I mean, you were hammering it down on them. So you're still out there showing them that you can. Talk about the youngins. Talk about your 2 magnificent children.
There, I have a 2.5-year-old Maya and a 5-month-old Owen. He was born in April this past year. And, you know, they switch your priorities. They make things important that I couldn't even fathom before what it would feel like to be a mom. And, you know, it's amazing. And I'm lucky that I have a great partner and father in Eric. And he's a great playmate for them. I think he's better playmate than I am. But,
we know good cop, bad cop there.
Yeah, no, well, definitely a good cop, bad cop, but I'm not the good cop. So it's just, I can't believe that I'm even in the position of being a parent. You know, it's kind of one of those things. Yeah. But it's amazing, and I look forward to the journey.
You know, when you used to keep the book. I'm not sure if you're still keeping the book for
Eric.
Eric
Tells me I am. So
Eric
we'll
still says, because
I've
Eric
had
is.
A couple months.
When did you ever start listening to what Eric tells you?
True. That's what I
Wilson
also
throwing you under the bus, brother. Was not her idea.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just think from the babysitting standpoint, I think it's a little more difficult to babysit 2 kids than for one on those late basketball nights. So we'll see. You know, I might make a cameo appearance depending on.
Well, we normally see your mom,
yes,
you know, Pat Struston, behind the scenes with Maya and the rest of it. And I think that's been such a great tradition at Torrington, and probably at a lot of schools, but we experience it, you know, more at Torrington, where, you know, Mike Fritsch, you know, Susan Senior will be in the background with the grandkids and the rest of it, and it is just such a family environment where those kids are growing up gym rats like you guys did.
Oh, exactly.
And then all of a sudden you're watching and you want to be that kid.
Right, and I think it's awesome. It speaks to, you know, the environment of Torrington and the Torrington athletic program, that, you know, it's important that these kids be around, and the girls love them, whether it's basketball or volleyball. You know, it's
Maya have her favorite yet on any team? Is there one, or does it depend on who she's watching?
You mean athletes?
Yeah, at Torrington.
Well, she tells people she's shy now, so she just, I think she's, you know, just looking around, figuring it out. But, you know, I tell Erica Pratt, you know, all right, we got 3 girls for the upcoming you know, who are those other 2 that
Oh, we were talking about Mario Longabuco and the lack of girls soccer players, so maybe we can have a,
well,
you
no,
know.
soccer competes with volleyball.
That's true.
So
Same time, can't do that. Got to switch or something, right?
We'll see.
You and Eric. I mean, it's always a nice, you know, story. I mean, we've known the Gamari family forever. You know, Grandpa is a great guy. We saw him up at Gilbert like forever. I mean, that family environment that you guys are. How did you guys meet, first of all?
We met through, actually, he was my brother's history teacher, believe it or not. And we met through basketball. And then I was doing some subbing when I was home for college at Torrington High School, and I got to know him. And one of our first dates was actually playing basketball at the YMCA.
And who won?
He did win.
Loving basketball, right?
Look at
Yeah,
that.
he did win. I tried really hard. I didn't let him win, although the thought did cross my mind. But he is very good, and I still get amazed, you know, watching him play, and a little bit of pride too. Like, hey, I know him.
Yes. You know, it's been a tough couple of years for the Raiders, you know, boys and the rest of it. But, you know, I know Eric is putting 150%,
you know,
into the effort. You can't teach height sometimes.
No.
Right? You got to have a couple of 6'2", 6'3s and the rest of it. But this year, I think he's got some pretty good returnings, depending upon who ends up coming out, right?
Right. I think so, too. You know, I'm always put in the tough position because I see what other people don't see in terms of the work that he puts into it, you know, like the scouting and the statting and the game planning. I mean, from December to March, we are all about Torrington High School basketball. And I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, but it is tough those years when you don't necessarily have the talent, you know, but he knows basketball and, you know, I've seen him work some magic before, and so.
It is such a tough job being a basketball coach because where that sport lies, and you know, you see it all and you go home with it all, and it's not easy, particularly when you go through eras that we're struggling. Does it make it easier or tougher for you and Eric because you were so good when you guys played? Because there's at times you know, some people will tell you it's hard for the really, really good ones, and if none of you ever saw either her husband or Christine play, they're really, really good. We're not talking middle of the pack here. We're talking up here, all-state type good and 1,000-point type good and all of that. Does that make it harder because you guys were so good, and when you see that they're not up to that level, or does it just help because you know what it takes to get to that level?
I don't find the lack of talent, and I think Eric would echo this. I don't find it frustrating. What I think that's different a little now is the effort behind the sport, and that's where I find a lot of my coaching is. You know, no, we don't let the ball hit the ground. We don't want it to. We throw ourselves on the, you know, like, so teaching that aggressiveness, teaching that instinctiveness that I think people like Eric and I had already. You know, I don't remember someone teaching me that. I just wasn't going to let anyone ever beat me at anything.
Well, that's why you guys were up here and not everybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, Larry Bird said once, he said that about Kevin McHale with the Celtics, and both of them are Hall of Famers, but he said Kevin McHale could have been so much better if he put out 100% half the time instead of what he did. So, yeah, you know, he was one of the ones that said, you know, people that are at that level, it's hard for them to coach because they have expectations, and you don't always get that from the other players, which I think is what you're talking about.
I think it's about finding, personally from my point of view, is, you know, drills that teach the aggressiveness, you know. So I found a drill that there's no bumping of a volleyball. It's actually throwing a volleyball. But they're diving on the ground. They're, like, not letting it hit the ground. And so I'm hoping that aggressiveness then transfers to, you know, the actual game of volleyball. So it's definitely a little more methodical in terms of teaching that and actually articulating, hey, we don't want to lose. Like the other day in our huddle, I said, you know, we're always into making statements. We want teams to come in and we want them to leave saying, wow, I don't want to play them again. Mm-hmm. You know, they're good. So, and I saw a lot of girls shaking their head like, okay, yeah. but you actually have to tell a lot of the athletes that now. And I don't know necessarily why, but I think it's made me a better coach in terms of knowing that I have to articulate some of the stuff that was instinctive to me.
Let me ask you a question. Monopoly. Ruthless? Are you ruthless at Monopoly?
Oh, we don't play a lot of board games.
Okay, all right.
But
you're competitive.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, so
yes.
Park Place, all the free money,
And
not happening,
I
right?
think although Eric's very competitive as well, I think he knows that I would try to beat him at everything. There's no
checkers to the coffee machine in the morning.
Folding,
doesn't matter what it is.
laundry, like it doesn't matter.
A
what
laundry
it is.
competition,
Yeah,
I love it, right?
Oops, you got a wrinkle there.
Yeah.
You missed the corner.
Not done correctly. So, I part of the reason why I think you guys have all been so successful, I think, is because of the family unit that you have. Your brother John. I mean, the biggest, greatest guy on the planet. I mean, shakes your hand, you got to go ice. I love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? John doesn't give you a half handshake ever, but a great, dedicated guy. And, in your family, a few years back, obviously, you lost Tim Considine Sr. And I've never seen, and I gained so much more respect for your family and for the community for how well you handled that and how much grace and, dignity everybody had during that process. I mean, I and guys like Rick, we consider families like yours almost part of ours because our families are very important to us. And being part of that whole, situation that you guys took from tragic into something of a celebration of life. You know what I mean? I was actually talking with Jim Nickerson the other day from Nickerson Construction. He's got your uncle's got the bracelet on.
Yeah.
Friend, family,
Yes.
friends, faith, and family.
Yeah.
You just see it, everywhere. Timmy and Brian. It's hard not to root to those kids for the rest of their lives, right? Timmy's now at JMU,
Yes.
following in Mr. Fabiaschi's footsteps there, right?
Yep.
How's he doing anyway? First couple of weeks in.
He's doing well. I saw my aunt the other day. He's not coming home to Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And he has no intention of doing so before then.
Oh.
So I think safe to say he loves the college life. And he's a great kid, and he's going to thrive. He's going to do great things, and that's a testament to, obviously my aunt and our family, but also what my uncle did prior to his passing too.
It sounded as if, because the only time I actually met your uncle was, towards the end when he was ill with ALS, and I am amazed when I read recently that part of that ice bucket challenge that we all took, it made a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, for once there was actually one of the many forms of ALS that got a little someplace on it.
Yes.
People don't mind doing things because sometimes we throw money after money after money and it does nothing. It's got to excite you guys a little bit every once in a while when you see, hey, we're making progress.
Well, and I think too, ALS was a condition that was a little more rare than like the breast cancer or cancer as a whole. So it wasn't necessarily getting all of the funding that those...
Kind of an orphan.
Yes.
Orphan disease.
So the Ice Bucket Challenge brought awareness. It did bring money. Obviously, there are different types of ALS, or at least the scope of it is different, because you have my uncle who... It was hard enough to know he was diagnosed with it, and I looked it up on the internet, and it's like, 5 years average lifespan once diagnosis. Well, he survived 7 months. So while you had mentally prepared for 5 years,
right.
And you can't really even mentally prepare for that.
You try.
Yeah.
Best you can.
You sort of put all right, well, where will we be at that point? So I don't think any of us are ready for the 7 months, but then you have someone like Stephen Hawking who has had it for decades. So there needs to be more research as to why it's so different between different, these different people. So.
And I don't mean to bring up anything sad for you, but I just want to compliment your family, your entire family, for the strength that everybody had, during a time of that. I mean, your uncle was a blast, right? I mean, that's really the thing. I mean, all the stories that I've heard are just like, he was. I love the golf tournament. I can't say on the air what they say about cheater, blank, and cheater. I mean, that happens I went to the first golf tournament, and I mean, what a blast. And get it again this year at Fairview Farms. Very well attended. Everybody just has a great old time, don't they?
It's fun. You gain perspective. I knew him as my uncle, and he was the funny guy and, slightly inappropriate, but always like a family man. But then you meet friends from college or friends from other walks of life, and they just give you a whole new perspective of this man. And it was awesome to meet them while he was still alive and to hear the stories, and then to also meet them afterwards. So we've come out stronger sort of as a result, although we miss him terribly.
Sure. But you've also made a difference, and I think taking some type of a tragedy like that and making a difference and paying it forward the way everybody did. And the ice bucket in the summer wasn't bad. The ice bucket for a challenge, that's kind of creative and kind of cool.
It was.
Dead of summer, bam. That was fun.
It was nice.
And you had so many creative ones. I saw one, I think, where somebody got hit in the head with a big bucket loader or something. So people went a little bit out of control sometimes because everybody had to one up somebody, right? I saw what was it, the Patriots or the Jets? Of course, it was the Jets. They had to have the whole team done, and it was they just made a disaster out of it. But it was a great job. We got about 4 minutes left in the fastest half hour of television. You've done so great.
Oh.
Having conversation with friends, how hard is that? That's because so all these guests are so great because they ask me, well, what kind of questions are we going to ask? What do I got to do? I said, you're having a conversation with guys you've known for years. So you got to tell everybody out there it's not that hard. It's easy,
really
right?
Not. It's very easy.
We're not even in interview form.
No.
We're not writing anything down or doing anything like that.
No, and it's also nice. I don't see Christine as often as I used to. She's got the kids and doing things like this, and we're doing our thing. And some of the people we have on, we see more often than that. But I can't remember the last time I saw you.
I know.
But so it's really kind of fun.
Catch up.
That's right. We bring the folks back there. So, listen, I want to thank Simply Seafood again for supporting this night, and I'm actually drinking the orange and cream from Stewart's. I mean, nothing speaks late summer.
Is this going to be like, we see Francesa with the Diet Coke all the
Not
time?
sure.
Is this going to be the Stewart's orange? Is that going to be the drink
His
of?
face is going to be out there.
Hey,
That's what he's really hoping for.
But since we have a couple minutes left, I'm going to pick out of the imaginary hacks. I didn't bring the hat tonight. One of the favorite things we ever did on the radio was I would make up random subjects, throw it in a hat, pick it out, and you had to talk about it.
Okay.
So now I'm just going to do my random hat in my brain and throw it out there. So, actually, you got one to throw, Christine? Just something like we normally do. This is not the quiz part. It's all good.
You know what first came to my mind, and I don't know why? The first word that came to my mind was Holy Cross.
Mm-hmm.
A reaction?
High school or college?
High school.
High school? A reaction to them.
I guess the reason it came to my mind is they're kind of the bane of existence of a lot of the NVL schools. I don't know. I don't think it's Torrington's main rival.
Yeah,
but,
I always respected what they did. I never personally had anything against them. Coach Lombardo coached when I played too, and he's still coaching.
I like Frank a lot. He just and he. I always pick on him, and when his wife's around, because she was pregnant one year with one of their children, and he took over the volleyball team, and they won the NVL. And I said, Frank, so you have an NVL title, too. You taught them everything you know. Well, I got to tell you, Frank doesn't know the difference between a volleyball, and his wife's always standing there, and I can see her turning red. He knows nothing. But
yeah, well, I mean, sadness. I only play Holy Cross once because they're not in our division anymore.
That's true.
So that whole 3-division thing.
It really has kind of diluted it a little bit, right? I mean, it was Holy Cross, it was Naugatuck. Sometimes you play Woket, Watertown, kind of like the geographical up and down,
Woodland's in our division now, so
a little bit farther down Route 8. So, all right. So I got one for favorite football team.
I'm not a huge fan of football, but I married into the New York Giants family.
Just went away then.
Yeah. So a little sadness in my house, and also I see the Mets.
Yes. Well, that is true. I haven't mentioned the Mets yet, and my good friend John Bongiorno was saying, Tim, the banner's been there for a half hour, and you haven't mentioned the Mets. Eric is a big fan.
Huge, but we're not really allowed. I wasn't allowed to get out of my seat during one game because they started a comeback, and so I'm like, but I really need to get out. He's like, don't move, don't move.
Well, who do you root for?
Again, I guess when I grew up, it was New York Yankees, but I married into the Mets. When you have to watch 162 games, you sort of become a little more invested in that team. So.
John is giving us the cut sign, so I think we have to kind of wrap it up here. I want to thank Christine Gamari for coming on the program. Always a pleasure talking to you. We will see you in the gym. Mr. Wilson, take us out.
Aloha.
Nice. Beautiful.
That was